Hi, everybody, and welcome. After decades in media and journalism, I've always wanted to do a show to uplift and empower women. Well, this is it. Get ready to spread your wings and fly. And Sandra Bishop is one of the first people who come to mind when I think of thought leaders in Cleveland, and I am so grateful and just filled with gratitude to have Sandra D. Bishop on the show.
I'm so filled with gratitude to be here. Thank you.
Yes, so it's good to have you. I know that you are a spiritual leader, a motivational speaker, and you have the Agape Renaissance, or not Renaissance Center. Yeah, it is, right? Okay.
It's Agape Renaissance Center right on Buckeye, right in the heart of the community, right in the heart of the neighborhood. I'm there. I'm the minister there. I speak every Sunday, run classes. I also do training through a company that I set up called Esteemed Encounters, where I go out to companies all over the place and talk about anything that has to do with employee assistance program training. So, and I've been speaking for years, so doing radio and TV and all that other good stuff. So,
but tell us about the journey that took you to Agape. How did that happen?
Oh, wow. So, who knows? It goes way back. It's one of those things where I started out originally doing radio. And my radio show was about singles in Cleveland. I mean, this is like right out of college. I'm out talking to singles. And what I kept finding is that people would show up to events that I was giving. And the problem wasn't in finding a mate. It was like being the right person. And so I started this exploration in how do I get people to recognize their inherent goodness. And so I did the radio show, I did TV show, and all of it, as it unfolds, it had a spiritual connotation to it. It's like once we discover our truth and who we are without all the stuff, most people think that it's about the stuff.
Right.
And once you realize that within you is all that you've ever needed, it's like it's so empowering to just tap people on the shoulder and say, this is what you need to know.
Now, it's empowering if you love yourself, and I know you're a big proponent of self-love, to love themselves unconditionally.
Right.
Tell us how do you do that?
So I think that it's the truth of our being, though, when you talk about loving yourself. I mean, you can't really love anybody or anything else until you first love yourself. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about from the biblical standpoint of view, it says love thy neighbor as thyself. But what people miss most of the time is the love self. And so if you're not coming from this sense of wholeness, if you're not coming from a sense of worthiness, you're showing up trying to get somebody to love you through your loving them or being something that they're not. And so it becomes this thing of finding your own truth and finding yourself.
Now, exactly. But I think people hear often what they need to do, but they are not really sure how to do it. So give us some tips.
One of the first things I tell people is fake it till you make it. I'm always a big proponent on, if you are not in a place where you love yourself. One of the things I used to do, I never forget, a therapist told me, she was like, tell yourself you love yourself, say I love you. Look in the mirror and do the I love you exercise. Now, when I first started doing this, I looked in the mirror and I was like, that's the first day. And then the second day, it's like, okay, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, and I got all these objections to it, right? Yeah, but I did this and I didn't finish that. And, I'm not a college graduate, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And so it becomes this but thing. And then I was like, but I love you, right? And so then the next day you go in and it's like, okay, the objections, they start to go down, but then it's like, okay, I love you. And it's kind of like, you do that, I love you. And then all of a sudden, you do that for so long,
I'm sure it would take different amounts of time for different people, right?
Right. I mean, because you've got to overcome so much of our own judgments. We have so many judgments about ourselves.
Definitely.
And we think that it's supposed to be a certain way or look like a certain way. I'm not this, I'm not that. We've got all these judgments.
All of those talking people in your head. So let me ask you about your weekly podcast.
Okay.
What can we expect to hear when we listen to the podcast, and how do we listen to the podcast?
Okay, so I actually broadcast over a system called Pal Talk. And on Pal Talk, I'm part of a system that says Awakening Together. So I've got links that are on my Facebook page, but it comes on weekly, and most of the time it's just me. Spiritual musing is what I call it. So I go through, I talk about, think about, and exercise ideas. It's not like, because I'm not one of those people. I'm not scripted. I don't do all this stuff according to a script.
Right.
It's like, let me unpack this, let me unfold this, and see what it looks like this week. So one week I might be talking about following your passion, and the next week I might be talking about the subtle curiosity that it takes to just kind of follow along a path. Mm-hmm. And so it just depends on how it unfolds on a given day. I just let it unfold. So you never know what's you're
you
gonna
never
hear.
you never know what's gonna happen. But okay, how do we listen? I mean, do you go online? You do what?
Oh, okay. So I go online. There is an app called Pal Talk. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I should put up another link to the radio recorder, because that makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
So if you're on Facebook, Sandra Bishop Thrives. I'm all over Facebook. If you find me on there, I've got links. I've got my page is wide open. I don't put restrictions on who can see me or follow my material. I don't put any restrictions on. So
yeah. Now look, I want to talk to you about A Course in Miracles.
A Course in Miracles.
And also, so talk about that a little bit first.
Okay.
And then I want you to share your experience meeting Marianne Williamson.
So when I first got A Course in Miracles, it was because of a Marianne Williamson and her book called A Return to Love. And I always tell people when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I stumbled upon a book called A Return to Love. Don't even know how I got it, but I opened this book up, and as I read it, it was as if something inside of me lit up. And I'll tell you, when I first started reading, it was really scary, because what happens is it challenges you to look at yourself and your ideas in a different type of way. And so when you look at this whole perception, there is this quote that they usually attribute to Nelson Mandela that's in this book.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it says that
Nelson Mandela,
it's not
right.
Nelson Mandela, but it was talking about our greatest fear. Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are beyond our wildest imaginings, that we are great beyond our wildest imaginings. And if we could just get a grip on that. So after reading Marianne Williamson, I went out and I got A Course in Miracles, and I opened this book up and I devoured it. It was it resonated with me in all the different ways. And the Course in Miracles is what they say is a different teaching, or an extended teaching from the teachings of Jesus the Christ.
Yes. Okay.
So it's not as if it is not based on what we already know. It sheds it in a different light.
Okay.
And
now,
it's a fabulous teaching.
I know you do the motivational speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how much time we have left, but I wanted to ask you if you do coaching, and if you do, how do people work with you?
Okay, so I speak all the time, like every Sunday, Agape Renaissance Spiritual Center, 11713 Buckeye Road rather. And through there, so I speak on Sundays. People who want to get in touch with me usually do so through the center. They come up, we do counseling, we do coaching, we do whatever is needed. And sometimes it's classes. Sometimes it's just going to empowerment classes to show you just how to be your best authentic self. And sometimes all people are looking for is permission. Permission to...
People need permission.
Yeah, to let themselves fly. I mean, because it's,
Yeah.
I mean, once you get a clue about how great you are,
There's no stopping you.
how great you are.
And how great
Right?
you are. Okay.
There's nothing that you can't do.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. It
I'm
has
so
been a
happy to be
joy.
here. Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Okay. And we will be right back. Now we are back with Laura Thompson. And Laura, welcome to the show. So Laura, tell me about the transition that you made. That's quite a transition.
Yeah, basically, after Obama was elected back in 2008 and during the next season of midterms, I was really dismayed by the vitriol that was sent his way by the Tea Party. And I kind of said out loud on my Facebook page to some of my friends, I think I'm going to start a mocha party to kind of be a response to the Tea Party. So that's kind of how it all got started. I wanted to have people be more civil, talk through knowledge instead of ignorance. So I started this Facebook page called Mocha Party.
Okay. So, that mocha party has grown to a lot of members now, and people go on there every day. How do you feel about that? Or
Actually, I'm really happy about that. We're almost up to about 3,000 members, and I'm not the only one who posts. I have a lot of my members who also post things and get feedback. So it's really great. I can go away from Mocha Party for a whole day, and I have other people posting on there for themselves, issues that are important to them.
Okay. Now, you did run for public office in 2017, and then I just learned you ran a second time. What was that like?
Yeah, last year I ran for city council in the city of Lyndhurst. Unfortunately, I lost. However, I do plan to run again next year.
Okay. So you've got the bug now. I mean, what lessons have you learned about running for office, especially as a woman in this #MeToo era?
Well, one of the main lessons I learned is to start a little bit sooner, and two, I really needed more money to run. That's a big drawback for a lot of candidates, new candidates. We just don't have enough money to compete, for example, with the incumbents. I wasn't able to do any mailings, and I think that was one thing that hurt me. But I do plan to run again.
Okay. So talking about money, you have to do these fundraisers early, and so I don't know if you want to give any secrets away, but what do you think would be like one of the most beneficial fundraisers?
Basically to do one in a large venue and get a lot of publicity, to get a lot of people to come out. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of friends with deep pockets, so I probably need to reach out to more people with deeper pockets who believe in me. That's a big thing. Also having fundraisers in people's homes as well as in venues. Those are helpful.
Okay. Now let's talk about social justice. So first, define what social justice is to you.
Basically, I think social justice involves equality for everyone, whether it's for African Americans, whether it's for women, whether it's for the gay community. Everybody wants to be treated equally. So that's pretty much where social justice falls.
Okay. And what is the one issue that is first and foremost in the front of your mind right now?
Yeah, right now I think the big issue for me is police brutality, police killings of the African American community, especially the African American males, unjust killings, unjust brutality. It's really getting out of hand. That's why Colin Kaepernick started kneeling in the NFL. And it's a major problem, and unfortunately our president is just exacerbating the issue. People were not kneeling during the anthem because they're against the national anthem. They're kneeling because they want to see equality. They want to see African Americans treated fairly. They want to stop the killing of our people.
Okay. One final question that I had in mind: where do you see morality in the picture as far as politics, because I think so many people start out, as honest people, and then once they get into the fray, things change.
And unfortunately, a lot of our politicians, once they get in office, they seem to become jaded. I think it's real important for them to go back to their moral compass. For example, you don't want politicians, pandering to corporations or to the NRA, for example. That's really important that they maintain a moral compass.
And thank you so much, Laura, for being on. I really appreciate it, really grateful, and we'll have you back sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And when we come back, we'll take a look at my interview with Auntie Maxine. Yes, Maxine Waters, the Congresswoman from California. We'll be right back.
I was just kind of shocked. What do you mean, most influential in the world? What are you talking? Then I thought maybe they had made a mistake. My press person had made a mistake, and I said, so they think that I'm one of the most influential people in the country. She said, no, in the world. I said, in the world. Why? And then all I could think about was this: the millennials who all have come alive, around everything that's going on now. And it transcends communities, it transcends states, it transcends countries. You know what I'm saying? And that maybe would help to bring this about. I don't know yet. I think it's a treasure trove of information. Okay. I think those tapes really describes the Trump criminal enterprise. Okay. I think that he was the fixer, and that he was married to someone from the Ukraine, and I think there's a connection there. Okay. That's gone back for a long period of time. I don't think he's a real lawyer, but I think he was a confidant and a fixer, and he's got lots of information about Trump. Okay. And I think some of that information is certainly relevant to this investigation. Okay. And I do think that Mueller is going to connect the dots, and I do think he's impeachable, and I'm thinking that when he connects the dots and he can show that this president, either both or one or the other, colluded with Russia and with Putin, or he obstructed justice, and I think he did right before our very eyes. Remember when he sat in the White House with the foreign minister from Russia and the ambassador and gave out classified information, and some of what Comey is showing us and telling us about he made everybody leave the room to talk to him. So I think he's impeachable, and it's a matter of the Republicans being shown information that is irrefutable. Welcome.
I got the rest, so